Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rise podcast. It's been a while since Rise took place on the 3rd of March, and everyone has been asking me what's new, what's next, what's happening with Rise. Well, there is an essence of Rise which is also shown in a podcast. And today I am honored to introduce a very special guest of mine. Her name is Sandi Rich Saksena. I'm going to give the chance for Sandi to introduce herself. Sandi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Amit, for having me on your show. It's not very often that I get invited because I'm always asking people to come on my show. So this is a lovely change. And you mentioned the word rich. Right? So there are two reasons for that. One is my maiden name is Richard. So my daughter shortened that to Rich when she first started out on my Facebook page. So on Facebook, I'm called Sandi Rich. And then, as fate would have it, I went into a career that involves money. So then the rich stuck. So that's why it's Sandi Rich Saksena.
Brilliant. It just doesn't stop at Rich Saksena. There is another element which I would really like to emphasize on, which is Queen Sandi.
Yeah.
Now, that word is thrown around a lot in today's generation, and I feel like when I met you through a mutual friend at an event, you embodied a queen. And I really want to ask you a few questions on that. Being a queen is not just about looking good. It's about carrying yourself in a way which embraces the scars that you've been through, the experiences, being stoic, someone that has that experience of life, dealt with hardships. So I want to ask you a question. What are some of the key challenges you faced throughout your life, and how have they shaped you as the person you are today?
Okay, so number one, I have to say, Amit, that I haven't really faced too many challenges. I've led a very charmed life, actually, if I come to look at it. And so from school to university to getting married, it was all very well flowing, and no tension, no this, no that. But there's one thing that I realized later is that I think when you have a very strong intent and you have a very strong belief in whatever it is you want, you'll get it. So there's not trying too much, it's just being that person, being that individual, being that entity, or whatever you want to call it, that says, yes, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to get. And I believe 100% that I'm going to get it. So that was the way it started. Now, the other thing that I don't generally share this, but I'm going to share it with you, is that, as you all know, our personalities are formed by the time we're 6 years old, right? So all the things that happen before you're 6 basically makes you the individual you are today. And for me, I was always the center of attraction. So I was the very much loved first grandchild and first child for my parents, and I had that position for 6 years before my sister came. So when she came along, my position never changed. I was always still number one. So I perceived myself, without being conscious about it, as just being everything that I want, getting everything that I want without having to really ask for it or manipulate it or, have a strategy. It just flowed to me. So that was why, in essence, when I say I'm a queen, I truly feel like one. So it's not a title that somebody has to give you. That's the point I'd like to make. You're crowned a beauty queen, you're made a beauty queen. No, it's you. You are the queen. Like, I am the queen, and I don't need anybody to tell me or certify or make it something like, yes, you're a queen. I don't need that, because that is who I am.
Beautifully said, and a different view as to how I looked at things, but I love to hear different opinions. That's why people like you are someone that I love to meet, connect with. The thing about our connection when we met was it was beyond the flesh. It felt like it was destined, because I've always looked at life as a journey. right? And I would like to, to my audience, to the people that attend Rise and the ones that are watching the Rise podcast, that life is a journey of self-discovery. And the way you put it, that no one really needs to give you that title of being the queen, but you embody it yourself because of your innate belief in yourself of what it is. I would beg to differ because it doesn't take someone to embody that much strength without having to go through ups and downs. I think you're being very modest in how you say it, and I think that's another thing which the audience needs to look at even more so, humility. With the status quo that you put yourself on, you still are very humble, you still are very open, you still have a very childlike essence in the way you convey yourself. And I think that that's the beauty of what it is to embody your true self. And in today's age, we're all about maintaining appearances, looking happy rather than being. And here comes someone that has embodied being. So just for the audience to know a little bit of how did you manage to be resilient through the ups and downs? Because it may not have directly affected you, but I'm sure there could have been aspects of family that have went through certain things and they look at you as embodying the queen energy. How did you hold on to that belief system?
So, as I said, life is pretty smooth sailing, and there came a time when I compared myself to Snow White. And why was that? Because Snow White was in slumber. She was sleeping. And everything was done for her. And the other one is like a car. So I was in the passenger seat of life. And the driving, I had willingly, very happily, left the driving to my husband. Because I had complete faith in him, I trusted him, he was very capable, very intelligent person. And I thought to myself, you know what, life is so good, it just can only get better. So I was in that false sense of security. Everything's being done for me. I don't need to worry. Whenever I need money, I have it. Whenever I have to go somewhere, it's not a problem. And unfortunately, when things went downhill, and I look back, and I say, was he the only person to blame? What was I doing? I didn't want to know what's happening. I was happy to let things go, especially when it came around money. So I had this fabulous lifestyle for over 25 years, it only getting better. So I have complete faith and confidence, and I'm not really paying attention to what's happening. So do we have savings? Do we have investments? Do we have loans? Not bothered. So when the crisis hit, I was in complete shock. So as you can see, that was the thing that sort of hit me in the solar plexus. Like I was completely flummoxed. I didn't know what to do. I was angry. I was panic-stricken. I was fearful. There were a lot of negative emotions going through me. And I couldn't accept what was happening. And there was a lot of anger and there was a lot of resentment towards my spouse because, again, I was unloading and dumping on him. Like, I'm not to blame. Why did this happen? I was not responsible. Not taking responsibility and finding the easy way out. Till such time that he actually collapsed in a restaurant in Abu Dhabi. And I was... when I came to know about it, I rushed to Abu Dhabi, and it was I think it was a wake-up call for me, because he was lying in the general ward, the male ward of a government hospital. And I thought to myself, this is a man who could afford the best medical treatment, and we had come down so much that we didn't even have medical insurance. And I thought to myself, this is it. I am not going to put this man through any more stress. So I decided, you know what, I'm well-spoken, I'm very self-confident, I've got a fabulous wardrobe, everything I have. All I need to get myself is a job. How difficult could that be? But then reality hits you in the face, and I was 46. I couldn't write a CV because I never worked a day in my life. I graduated from university and got married. So besides being married, 2 kids, driver's license, very important, there is nothing else. So no office skills, no typing skills, no nothing. But I knew that I could do something. What it was, I didn't know. And people were not very polite. It's like, what can a middle-aged woman do? Are you going to teach this middle-aged woman to do something? We don't have time for that, like very dismissive and not very kind. So that's when the first thing happened for me, Amit. And it was 2 things that I decided that were going to define me. One was intent. My intent was very strong. I had to get a job. And the other was complete belief in my capabilities. Nobody was going to tell me that I could not do it. That was something I refused to accept. Nobody was going to define who I am and what I can do. And so I believe in the power of prayer. I'm not a religious person, I'm very spiritual, so I pray to the universe. And my prayer, and this is something I'd like to say, when you ask for something, be very specific and very clear. And don't change your mind all the time. Oh, I want this, I want that. Be very clear. And my intention was open one door for me. That's it. Not what kind of door, and how many times the door was shut. My prayer never changed. And it was answered. And I got a job. But you know what? Again, perception. I need a salary. How much will I earn? How will I pay bills? And the job I got was only commission-based. And that I was offered the job, and the first thing I asked is, oh, so what's the salary? And I said, there's no salary. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't take the job. I need a salary. And my boss, he's still my boss, then he was just 22 years old, 29. And he said to me, Mrs. Saksena, you're not thinking this through. I'm giving you an opportunity to earn unlimited amount of money. Think about that. Until today, I've never ever been on a salary. I've always worked on commission. And you know what? Why I like it is because I get to decide how much I should earn. I see direct results of my hard work. I don't wait for an appraisal or a 5 or 10% increase or the profits of the company to determine what I should get. My worth, I decide. So I think that's a very important distinction that we should all make. Are you sure of your worth, or is somebody else going to tell you how worthy you are, how capable you are, how successful you are?
I'm getting goosebumps. I won't lie. This is probably the best definition I've heard of balance. They say that men bring the strength, women bring the balance. And unfortunately, the society we live in right now, things are all messed up because social media has taken people to a different way of looking at life. Show yourself enough, show enough skin, and then you're probably going to get more views, more likes. The way you balance vulnerability with strength, grace and elegance. I've also told you that when we spoke initially, it was like talking to a childhood friend, but there is an inner queen. Now, it's not only in you, right, Sandi? This is something that everyone can embody, right? How do you nurture that inner queen in times when you feel not worthy enough? Because we go through cycles. There are moments where we may not feel as comfortable. We might have some insecure thoughts. I don't think people are insecure. I think we're clouded by insecure thoughts. So how do you push them to the side and allow that queen to stand up and take the lead? Because you took accountability in that situation where things went bad for your husband. In today's society, men are scared that if they are not able to provide, their wife or their girlfriend will leave them, which means the essence of everything is all about money, right? But there are values that somehow in this time has been lost. So I want from you, for the audience to know, these values that you hold, really dear to be the person you are?
Okay, so I think the first thing most people should understand, and I'm not talking about gender, I'm just talking everybody, is you are responsible for you. So stop putting that responsibility on somebody else. Because if you are doing that, then you are not a very strong person. So first you have to identify and understand who you are. So I say this very often. Amit, if you look at your thumb, right? Look at your thumb. And then you think about the print, right? Your thumbprint, fingerprint. You are as unique as your fingerprint. Nobody else in the world has it. That's why it's one of the ways you are identified, because you can't fudge it, right? So remember that. You're as unique as your fingerprint. That is the number one thing. The number two thing that I think most people should embrace is the fact that, and I say this, if you want to be number one, everybody wants to be number one, right? But they're quite happy to take second place. And I'm talking about relationships, I'm talking about everything, men, women. So when you take a step back voluntarily and you are depending on somebody else, you're making that person number one, not you. So don't think that I'm number one, so somebody should look after me. It's the other way around. You are giving up your independence, your sense of happiness, your sense of success. You are giving it to somebody else to determine how it should be. How does that work? I don't know. So unless you know who you are, and unless so you. The other thing is the number one. It's an odd number. So you need to be odd to be number one.
Some amazing trinkets of wisdom
And
here.
it's so simple, right? It's not this high funda philosophy kind of thing, reading in books. No, it's simple. So when people say, my husband is not doing very well and, I expected this, it's your expectation. Nobody in this world is born to meet your expectations, my dear. Get rid of that and get on with your life. There's no need to start looking, why this or why that. There's no why. Just do it. You want something in life, go and get it. Very simple. The moment you go into all these why, how, this, I'm lost, nobody's lost. Sorry. You think you're lost, that's a perception, and only you can change it.
Wow. I have a philosophy on this as well. I feel like people tend to get lost because they're disconnected from their heart, because they're not following their passion, and they allow the mind to dominate everything that they do. That's when people go into manipulation rather than manifesting. When you know your worth, when you tell the universe or God or the Almighty that I know my worth, I deserve better, that's when doors open for you, because that's what this journey has been about. You are quite multifaceted. You only gave us a glimpse of what is it that you do, that you work on commission or things. There is so much more. Could you please tell the audience a bit more about how multifaceted you are and the fact that you embody limitless behavior and mindset?
So I think, and this is what a lot of people who are very close to me say, that I'm very childlike. So I am 72 years old, and I'm very proud of my age because I'm very energetic, I'm extremely healthy, I don't have any medical issues, I don't take any medication. I'm just in love with myself. I think you all need to fall in love with yourself. And this thing that goes around, she's so self-absorbed and she only thinks about herself. Hello, excuse me? Who else is going to think about me except me? Okay, so this thing that goes around, these falsehoods that we are fed all the time, self-centered, proud, who does she think she is? These are all done by people who are not sure of what they want in life. So it basically stems from jealousy. And so when you find people like that, my advice is just don't bother about them. Don't waste your energy, don't waste your time, don't waste a lot of your life, your thinking, your health especially, on something like that. Because I know a lot of people do that. They are miserable because they're trying to please people, they're miserable because they're not being accepted. First, you must accept yourself, no matter how you are. Okay, so I'm 72 years old, correct? My skin will sag. Okay, I cannot look 40. Yes, I can look a fabulous 72. But if I start thinking, oh my God, how can I look younger? For example, should I get this done? Should I get done? This tuck, that tuck, this nip, this that. It'll never end. Right? So whom am I fooling? Nobody. And the people are also looking at me and thinking, how ridiculous does she look? So when you embrace yourself and you embrace who you are, it doesn't matter what other people think. Are you handsome? Are you beautiful? Are you this? That comes from within you. When you walk into the room, you could be dressed anyway, but it's your personality, it's your energy, the vibe that you give out that makes the difference. And I think we should all be working on that.
Brilliantly said
Yes?
again. Everything she says, it blows my mind away. You embody quite a few elements of what Rise is, the concept that I created, because it was part of my own journey to love myself, know my worth, embody an abundance mindset instead of lack, nurturing relationships, understanding them, releasing fear, releasing doubt, finding my authenticity to be able to find my purpose, which is to communicate this to people, as many of them as possible. And because I saw life through my own unique lens, this is why you're here, Sandi, because you have embodied that unique lens so gracefully. And the generation that we see right now, based on what social media has programmed them to be, call them TikTok brains, that every video gets swiped in the next 3 seconds, where people have forgotten how to be present in the moment. Think of it from back in your times when you were possibly my age or even younger. There was no smartphone. You used to actually have conversations with people, connect with them, have fights, not have passive-aggressive behavior, but actually convey what is it that you want to. And I think one of the biggest challenges that people have, because I've done my research on fear, right? Apart from fear of death, there's something that's higher than that, which is the fear of speaking your truth, which you do so very well. And I've had various conversations with you. You look at things, you read energy, you feel things. When you look at the generation that we're in now, the society has programmed us to not feel much, but just look a certain way. And that is what we're trying to show to people. How do you embody that feeling, that sense of who we truly are? And I think you do that really well. But apart from that, you also help women into becoming more financially independent. Could you tell us a bit more about that so that people know?
Okay, so before I start that, Amit, I'd like to add something about what you were talking about before, about fear. So you know what fear stands for, right? FEAR?
I have my own acronym.
Okay.
False illusions appearing real.
Okay, so it's false evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing my
Right.
bad, yeah.
So that's one. So I always tell people this is a journey inward. So everybody thinks talk from your heart, talk from your head. Sorry, you're supposed to talk from your solar plexus. Why? Think about it. That is your source of your energy. That is your center. When you have fear, where do you feel it? It's a knot in your stomach. When there's elation, when you're in love, when you have your first kiss, the butterflies in your stomach, right? So your solar plexus is where it all is, your root chakra, right? And this is an awakening I had when I did the ayahuasca. So that was something that was really nice. And the other thing I'd like to say, talking about the inward journey, is tune into your internal GPS. What is your internal GPS? It's your inner voice. That gut feeling that says, don't do this. that gut feeling that says, yes, this is the thing that I should do. That is what your inner voice is telling you. So listen to it. And you'll be surprised how much you will learn, how empowered you'll become. So you have to repeat the question that you asked me.
Well, you do a lot more than just,
You talk
as
about
you said,
financial independence for women. Yes, this stems, a lot of what we do in life stems from our own experiences. So I grew up in a family where we had a very modest upbringing. And we were always careful about money. And we always had lots fabulous food. We went to good schools, but there was nothing to what we call to splurge. And the other thing that I saw in my family, and this is a very important distinction I'm making over here, is because it's what we see when we are growing up that determines how we will spend money. And this is something which is embedded in our mind by the age of 6, because before that, the mind is like a tape recorder, and it just records everything, good or bad, it's just recorded. And that's your subconscious that runs your life. So what are the money messages that you received as a child? That is your first step to know why you deal with money the way you do. Because you're doing it at a subconscious level, right? So there are many kinds of women. Some are hoarders, some are spenders, some are, I can't take a risk with my money. Because it has happened, they have seen it in their own life. So in my case, as I said, modest upbringing, but always my mom never worked, my grandma never worked. So that's how I started life. Not working, because it was, the husband who does that and I do the family bit. But when I took this step, and then I looked around me and I said, I've come into the workforce, and now I'm seeing so many women who are working. It wasn't in my vision before that. And I said to myself, here are these women, I admire them, because they have full-time jobs, they're moms, they're wives, and they're balancing everything so well. But I know a lot of women who earn a lot of money, but when it comes to making that decision, how much do I save? Where do I invest? Why should I take an insurance policy? It's always like, I'll ask my husband, I'll ask my father. Basically, I'll ask a male in my family. So I've always asked women, you earn a salary, you are a decision maker in your office, right? Some of them run their own businesses, so they're taking financial decisions all the time. So why can't you translate that into making financial decisions on your personal finance? Why? It's all that thing that was running in your head. So it's very important first not to say, if you save so much money, you'll get this. It doesn't work. You have to speak to women at a slightly different level. And you have to first become, like a pal, like friends, like, yes, I get you. I know what you're doing. And also to explain to them is that if you leave all decisions, maybe your spouse or your dad or whoever it is an excellent money manager. Excellent. What happens when they're not there? Whom will you turn to? How will you manage? You need to be aware. So my things about financial independence is not teaching you which stock to buy or how is online trading done. That you can learn yourself. I am going a little deeper. And I'm saying, if you want to continue enjoying the life that you have 20 years from now, you got to start thinking. And also, this is a fact, that women and men of the same age, women outlive men by at least 7 to 15 years. So if you're married and you generally marry a person slightly older than you, you can look at least 10 to 15 years of being a widow if you're married, right? And if you have not taken interest, if you're not taken charge, if you're not well informed, what are you going to do? How are you going to manage? And as they say, when you get old, you don't think that clearly, which of course does not apply to me. This is what happens. You've seen it around you, right? You may not be aware of it, but it's there. So your grandmother or your aunt or your you see the kind of life they lead if they're alone?
They don't know what to do. And I'll say it publicly, this has been a problem with a lot of women over the years where they didn't know how to identify
Exactly.
as themselves, because everything was based on what my father thought of me, what my brother thought of me, what my mother, what my aunt, what my children think of me,
Exactly.
what my colleagues think of me. And that's the problem. The reason we feel lost is because we are encapsulating our image based on what we have been told about us rather than who we truly are. And I think the generation that we live in with all these dating apps right now, like Tinder, for example, it doesn't allow women, and women aesthetically pleasing or not, they have options, right? It doesn't matter. It's all about what you can get. This is survival in the dating field right now. And I don't think that women have been given that chance to disconnect when they go through a breakup. Do they get time to self-reflect on what went wrong in that relationship, to say, maybe I don't want to make those mistakes as well? You took accountability when things went wrong south for your king. Let's call him that, because you wouldn't have been with him if he wasn't a king. Could you also, for the audience, give them a glimpse of what it is for a man to embody his kingship?
Okay, so when I look at my husband, and then I look at my son, the two male people in my life, right? My husband is old school because that's the way he was brought up. So it's his responsibility to provide the best possible home and the food and the security and whatever else, right? And even when I stepped in, it hurt him a lot because he took it upon himself as having failed, because that's the way you were brought up. And then I have my son, who has grown up in a slightly different family atmosphere to what my husband and myself grew up, because we had a slightly different way. So again, the way he looks at life is very different. And by God's grace, he does well in life. But he's still not married. And one of the reasons for that is he hasn't really found anybody who really wants him for himself. And so I said, why are you being so judgmental? He says, Mom, I'm not being judgmental. This is how it is. And I'm happy to be the way I am. And if things change, they'll change. But I'm in no rush. So I think that's one of the things that we need to understand a lot, is that these family pressures, social pressures to conform, now you're this age, now you're that age, now you're at this stage, that's a load of nonsense. Every individual has the right to live their life as they want it, as they choose to be happy. We came into this world for what? To be sad? To be labeled? To be said, oh, you are this. Who's anybody to say that? But we're being told that all the time. I'll give you a very good example. You get these surveys on, they come up on your phone and whatever else. And so it's like a marketing survey for example, a phone. And it says, this phone and whatever else. And then they'll ask your age and gender. And when I say age, and I put my age, you know what the answer comes back? You don't qualify. As if I don't use a phone? Come on. So even to that level, people are putting you into a category and judging you. So you could feel, oh my God, I'm so left out, I feel so bad, there's nothing, I don't have any purpose in my life. Or you can say, you know what, marketing is marketing, and I know there are lots of people who've done marketing, and nothing against you, but I think they tend to control everybody's life. And I think we need to get rid of that.
100%. I personally feel like we live in an attention-based economy where, you post a picture or a video on Instagram and you're just hoping that someone likes it. And the moment someone doesn't,
Oh my God.
you're like, oh my God, I have to delete this video. When actually we're here to embody. Once I've said it, I've said it. And I want my voice to be heard. I didn't hear it for an audience. I didn't say it for an audience, rather. I said it because that's what I was meant to convey. And I'm going to stick by that. I personally feel like you have done a lot of inner work, Sandi, and I think this is something that my generation or the generation beyond mine would love to know more about. The importance of that inner voice, that self-talk that we have with ourselves. Because it doesn't come from a place of ego. It's self-assurance, self-actualization. And that's something that needs to be conveyed more of. How do you release that wound of abandonment? How do you stop being needy for attention? How do you cultivate an abundance mindset? Let me give you an example. Most people don't even breathe in abundance. We breathe to survive, right? Halfway, not through the diaphragm. So that's the basic thing which is given to us for free. And we are so programmed not to even breathe fully. That's where it starts to come from. Now, I was lucky where in my journey, I was put in a school where there was a 1 hour break where they said meditate and just allow us to sit with ourselves. And I allowed myself to do that. And I think as the journey went through, I've been through various people of different age groups, doesn't matter. But I feel like when they don't get their way, the inner child acts out. And they start acting like, oh, I'm going to break this, I'm going to do this, and they start cussing. One aspect of being a queen or embodying that essence is to respond, not react. I'm sure in your journey, you went from reacting at some point to now responding to situations. What flipped?
So this actually goes back to the time when I started working. And as I said, I was always used to getting everything my way. And there I was, people used to call me up and talk about financial products and insurance, and I was always very dismissive. Now I was on the other side. And people were very dismissive towards me. And it really hurt my ego. Like, what do you mean? Why is this? I've got this amazing product. I'm explaining it so well. And then my boss said something to me which I will never forget. And I think that's something, it's very basic. He says, you need to have a thick skin. You don't let people's rejection of you spoil your day. You're going to make so many more calls, you're going to make so many more people, you have to do so many more presentations. Is one no or one rude person going to determine the rest of your day? What about the nice things people say? We see, we always focus on the negative. Somebody can praise me, somebody can appreciate what I've done and whatever, and then somebody just walks in and says something rude or nasty, whatever, and we just forget everything. I mean, come on. Why do we do that? I mean, why can't... So that's when I made the distinction. Because I said to myself, I have to close X number of cases to earn X amount of money. So am I going to focus on the negative, or am I going to focus on the positive responses that I'm getting? And just brush aside everything that's negative because it doesn't serve you. You don't have time for it. That's the problem nowadays. People just have too much time because they're not keeping themselves occupied in anything which is worthwhile.
Distractions all across.
Yeah.
And I think it's the generation which is distracted. Let me ask you something. I've grown up to a lot of stories. A woman is a man's rib. Don't chase your desires so much as you chase your dreams. But as we've progressed, everything has become superficial. Everything has become about... There was a quote I heard, let me read that out for you, where it said, love waits, lust rushes. Find your missing rib, not your missing desires. Don't let loneliness lead you back to the people and things God already removed from your life, because it will only come to hurt you back once again. But when you see relationships in today's world, the toxicity, where once a breakup happens, knowing that it's not good for us, we go back into those relationships. And I think it has happened over years, generations, because we want to mend, we want to grow, we want to build. If you don't fight for it, then you've given up. But how much poison can you take, even if it's from someone that you love, before you die?
It's not love.
It's not love. It's like, you don't complete me. I'm complete as a person.
Exactly.
You're complete. We come together and make a bigger whole. And that's one embodiment where this generation and people actually across the board should understand that we came here to experience life. We didn't come here to accomplish only. Accomplishments are a byproduct of what we do. You know, we come here to earn a lot of money, but you understand this, that you came here to leave a legacy. Now, your legacy is to empower women. Your legacy is to speak your truth to women, empowering them truly. You recently did a speech in Abuja. We couldn't have met. So could you tell the audience a bit more about truly what it is to embody womanhood? Because I think that is going to really help open a lot of eyes.
Okay, so woman, this distinction that we keep making about male and female. We're all human beings. And we have we've been created to complement each other. Right? We can't have a baby without having the male and the female. Now you can have all this artificial, whatever it's called, but you still require the male and the female. All right? So we complete each other, we complement each other. We are not in competition. That's what you got to understand. There's no competition. There's just being together, enjoying life. Why did you come on this earth? To enjoy life.
Of course, yes.
So the soul has come to experience the journey. But what's making a mess is the mind. Because most of us live in our mind. We don't live we're not being there. We're here, which is the biggest problem. Because this is a very small part of who we are. But we tend to forget that. And I have to say that the social system, the educational system, all the systems have focused only on our mind, not the rest of us. And the mind works in unison with the rest of your body. Unless you're in sync, you're always going to be off balance. Right?
100%.
So all I'm saying is, forget about male and female. You are a human being who has come here. You have certain functions, and in order for those functions to go to the next level, you need each other. So be together if you want to. Don't hold it against each other, that you didn't do this for me, so I want this. It's not a competition at all. It's a journey where both individuals are walking together. And let's face it, there could be times in life you don't like the journey anymore. So what, are you just going to carry on, be miserable? Or are you going to say, you know what, I have the courage to say, I don't want to be in this kind of relationship, or I don't want to be on this journey anymore. I want to change tracks, offbeat.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
Do you have permission to change your life? Do you have permission? Who is going to give you that permission? You. You have to give yourself the permission to make changes in your life. Nobody else. You do not require anybody else's yes or no. It's your choice. Life is about choices. And we always forget that.
Correct, because we're so caught up in distractions and we're always looking for the next best thing. Like, I personally feel like life is not about moving from one thought to the next. It's about living the space between those thoughts, right? Which is where the essence of life is felt. We live in such an intellectual society, right? We've achieved so many things. We've gone to the moon, we've come back, we've created electric cars. But wisdom doesn't come from the intellect. It actually comes from the soul. It's embodied, it's embedded. It's by, in those young ages, seeing those experiences, absorbing it like a sponge, and then becoming self-aware of your patterns, interactions, and the people that we deal with, how we deal with them. How do we shift our perspective? If we think we're the mind, we can't shift the mind. You can't do surgery on the mind when you think it is. But when you look at your higher self, which is beyond the mind, it is the observer of the thoughts, the positive and the negative, then it's not changing your mood anymore. It's changing your mode. So you become the observer and you neutralize that. And that is what allows us to be our true, authentic self. When we observe life, look at it for what it is, and accept. And as your lovely sister says, allow. Allow life to happen to you, because that is what's going to show you what's next. When you think you are that, you will stay there. When you know you're more, that's when you can bring that change. But I think the wounding from childhood has created a lot of blockages in people. And I have my own ways. If I feel blockage in speaking, I start to sing. If I feel tired, I dance, I work out. You push yourself. You know, you're in your 70s, which is really hard for people to believe. It was hard for me to believe when I met you. I believe saying that you were in your mid-50s. And I wasn't trying to be modest. I actually felt that because of the way you carried yourself, the essence of how you embodied it. And, you know, we're looking for fast results now without going deep within. And just on that, I'd like to say to the audience that the journey to self-discovery is so important in today's time. To find that inner peace, stop looking outside. It has to come from within, inner peace. When you're at peace, you will have people that will try to distract you from it, but it is your job to move your awareness back within. Take your awareness back to your breathing, as I'm currently doing whilst talking to Sandi, even though the things she says is breathtaking in all aspects, and I wish you all could meet her. And Sandi, could you please tell the audience where they can see you, where they can meet you, how to reach out to you?
Okay, so I do have a very simple email address. It's Sandi Rich Saksena @gmail.com. So that's one. And my YouTube channel is also Sandi Rich Saksena. And the Sandi and the Saksena as with the $sign, because it's all about money, right? So those, I mean, if you want to watch the videos there, but you can drop me an email if that it's okay, and you have my number, so you can add it on whenever you want. The other thing that I would just like to say is we talked about Abuja, right? And the audience is African. Now, Africa is a place which is still being discovered. They're still discovering themselves. So a lot of the women there in the audience are still trying to figure out who they are. Okay, so they are still not as exposed to social media and that to that extent as we are. So it's very refreshing to see the wide-eyed, excited, happy people, the women, the girls, coming forward and full of enthusiasm, talking to me, asking me things after I gave my presentation. And I felt so great, and I thought in my mind, I don't see this in Dubai. Everybody's so jaded. Everybody's so interested, like, okay, you've spoken, now I'm on my phone, or I have to make this call. There's no enjoying anything anymore. So I think in closing, what I would like to say is, you have one life. Enjoy it. That's the only thing I'll say. Enjoy your life.
Perfect. And, you know, mistakes are meant to be learned from.
Of course.
Not to repeat over and over again and then blame the world. The victim mindset needs to go for us to really embrace our authenticity. With that, Sandi, thank you so much for taking time out. I'm sure the audience is going to love it. I loved this conversation as always. And we look forward to doing some great work together.
Absolutely. And I love everything about me.
There is a saying which I asked you, which I'd like for the audience to tell you, for you to tell them. What was it again?
Which one?
Too glam to?
Oh, yeah. I'm too glam to give a damn. Number one. Number two, I'd like to be number one. And for that, you have to be odd. right? And there's one thing that I learned from a kid's storybook, which I used to read out to my kids, and it didn't. I really didn't think about it then, but it's now. If you have a brain in your head and feet in your shoes, you can go anywhere you choose.
Wow. On that note, thank you, Sandi. So, as you heard, we had an amazing guest at our show, and there's going to be more exciting guests coming through before we announce the next Rise, which is going to come soon, I promise you that. So, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely time. Stay safe, love yourself, know your worth, and find your authenticity.